gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz, guys. Welcome to episode 131 of the Untapped Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. We are thrilled to have you here with us. We've actually got 5 main formats of our show. So first, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the mental side of our brand. So we go over our anecdotal experience with things like mindset and mentality. We then pass on tips and advice to you guys to then apply to your own lives. Next, we have physical vitality episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the physical side of our brand. We really get to showcase our expertise because you have 2 certified personal trainers here. So in those episodes, we cover everything to do with the gym, nutrition, workouts, fitness programs like 75 Hard, or maybe mental toughness programs like 75 Hard.
Yeah.
Supplements, Untapped Training, which is alive and well. If you guys have any questions about that, reach out. We'd be more than willing to help you. Sometimes we will even cover trending topics or articles within the fitness industry and then give our thoughts and opinions on those. Guys, those episodes are full of great information for free, I might add. So make sure you pay attention. Go back and listen to things if you need to. Take notes. Just make sure you pay attention.
Nice, dude. Untapped Training, by the way, really buzzing lately, too.
It is, yes.
Really buzzing lately.
Awesome.
I mean, we literally got people anywhere from personalized programming to literally just prepping for an event of some sort. I mean, really cool stuff there.
No, it's very exciting.
Very exciting for us on that end of things, for sure. That's our baby. So anyways, guys, our third format is our breaking news format. That's what we have for you today. Now, these are current event-based formats. As you can probably guess, there is a million current event things going on right now, especially in the United States leading up to the elections in November. So we could have 3 to 4 episodes a week on all the stuff going on, but we don't want that to be our entire platform because we are also trainers and our main thing is health, wellness as well. We don't want to just talk about the doom and gloom of society all the time. So these episodes will also be very personal excellence focused for you guys. Our fourth format is our Knights Table format. That is a masculinity-based format. We talk about anything from toxic masculinity, if it's real, what it is, fatherhood and how important it really is and the impact it's had on our lives as well, what being a male means and how important males actually are to society as well. Now, keep in mind, I'm 26, Wurtz is 25, Mitchell is 24. Because of that reason, we are not coming to you as all put together perfect men. The only perfect man to ever walk the earth is Jesus Christ. On to our fifth format now. That is our guest format. That is when we sit down with anything from an entrepreneur, fitness professional, athlete, doctor, somebody with a great story, anybody that brings you value. We're going to bring them on. We're going to have a great conversation with them. And then we are going to deliver great content. And we're also going to learn a lot from those episodes, just like you guys will as well. Our final thing to introduce is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
Hey, what's going on?
I never know what to expect.
Yeah, I know. It throws my flow off a little bit.
Yes, me too, because I'm expecting like a hey,
that's the goal.
Something else with it, but there's never something else with it. But I know the one time that we don't expect something else to follow, something's going to follow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or one of these times he's just not going to say hello, and then we're just going to stare at him, and
he'll give a head nod.
Yeah.
It's like, well, thanks, Mitch, for our
welcome
listening or listeners. Listening audience is what I was going to say there. Wow.
And our viewers. I'm going to stare at him.
See, I don't have to say anything. You guys just butcher it for me. So
that's not a
hey,
not
at least
a bad point.
He got the ages correct.
That's true.
Yeah. 2 weeks in a row, dude.
I know, dude.
We're on a roll.
You know I'm buzzing. When
That's
I'm
a winning.
But shortly in here, in a few weeks, he's going to have to try again and get it all right once again.
That is true.
Damn it, Wurtz. Come on, dude.
Sorry. Yes, I had
you have to have a birthday.
I know. Yeah. Sorry. I should have planned that better, I guess.
Yeah, so, by the way, are we all in agreement that we're all Red Sox fans now?
Just massive Jarren Duran fans.
Free speech for the win, baby.
No kidding. No kidding.
Not the point of our episode, but
right.
Just had to throw that in there.
I mean, it is a current event going on right now.
Actually, yeah, it is.
Speaking of reality, before we started that, I saw a horrible call by an umpire. I forget what it was, but he got like hit in the back of his foot by a pitch.
Yeah.
And they called him like they said it didn't touch his foot and he was screaming at them. So what's going on? Like, is that a thing where umpires are just picking up the slack of whatever that really bad umpire was, Angel
Angel Hernandez.
Oh,
Yeah.
It seems like
Even
there's
Mitchell
been.
knows about
it
it.
Wait. It hit the umpire or the batter?
It hit the batter. It hit like the back of his foot, but the umpire said it didn't hit his foot and ejected him because he got mad.
Well, I believe that's a reviewable play.
They did. They pulled up the footage and it showed it his foot, yet they still said it didn't hit his foot.
But did the team challenge it? I mean,
yeah,
so then he would have gotten first base anyway.
he got ejected. The player, the batter. I'll have to find the
I
video
feel like
for
there's
you.
a detail you're missing
Maybe.
there. Yeah.
But it seems like, I don't know, maybe it's a trend, but I feel like across sports, refs are getting worse personally.
Well, so coincidentally, you say that. There is a baseball podcast that I listen to pretty religiously. It's actually a great one. It's called Baseball is Dead, for any baseball fans. One of the guys on there pulled up some numbers since, I think it was 2015 maybe. Since 2015, the accuracy of umpires has improved every single year. Now, replay is now a thing as of, I want to say this is maybe the third year of it in MLB, maybe longer. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a detail we're missing maybe on that because, yeah, he says it hit him. The umpire says it didn't. Well, as far as I know, that is a challengeable play by the player's team. And then you would go to the replay and the people in New York would say, yeah, it hit him or it didn't hit him. So
I think honestly what it might actually be, it might not be the accuracy of the calls. I think the leagues are just getting softer. Like especially whenever we watch our sport, hockey, and it's like, and basketball for that matter, like if we ever turn that on.
Right.
The calls just are a lot weaker than they ever used to be in both those sports.
Well, and guys can bargain to get calls for them and things like that.
Exactly.
I mean, look at LeBron.
I mean, well, LeBron and like James Harden's another one that really started it. Like he jumps into guys to get a foul call and whatnot, and like he gets the call,
right?
That type of stuff. So it makes you. I get where Mitchell's coming from.
Yeah,
it makes you question.
No, for
the
sure.
integrity of the officials in a lot of ways.
Yes,
and again, they're humans; they make mistakes and whatnot. But we all love sports and we all want to see the right things.
Right.
There are plenty of times I will say where fans they just get fired up for
no
good reason.
For sure,
I will say that, but. Yeah, I agree because I mean the NHL these days, like it's weird because they'll call an embellishment call where a player flops. It happens very rarely, but there's one team that it happens a lot with, the Dallas Stars. I don't know why, but they are a big team that likes to flop, and it's happened a few times where like a guy will embellish a play and act like he got tripped or hit or something like that.
Yeah,
and they'll still call the player who he embellished on as well. So it'll be like the guy will get. You embellished and you faked the call,
right?
But then you also get a penalty. The guy who also committed in quotations the penalty. So it's this weird like inconsistency with the rules. It seems like in a lot of times in the NHL, and I think that's also why it's hard for the sport to grow sometimes because there's so much going on. And it's like it's a very all over the place sport,
right?
And then that type of stuff doesn't help either.
Right.
It's like either slows down the game or it makes it more confusing and.
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
And that was, I mean, before replay and challenges came to the MLB, like there would be safe and out calls that were blown at first base or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a perfect game that is not a perfect game because of 2 outs in the 9th inning. The umpire called the runner safe and he was out by a considerable amount. The guy that was throwing it, he was pitching for the Tigers, Andre Galarraga, I believe is how you say his name.
That's a name.
Maybe like 2013 or something. I don't know. And he literally, it was either 1 or 2 outs in the 9th inning. So he's that close to a perfect game, not even a no-hitter. There's been 27 perfect games thrown in MLB history. That's it. And he was 1 or 2 outs away from a perfect game, and he called him safe. And you can go back and look at any angle, any whatever, and he was so clearly out. Like, it's unbelievable. Now, if that happens in today's game, like, you can replay it or you can challenge it, and get the call right.
Perfect game hypothetically stays. Yeah.
Kind of crazy. After the game, Jim Joyce was the umpire that made the call at first base on this particular play. He saw it, and actually, I think during the game, he started crying because he knew he just effed up. But after the game, he actually bought the pitcher a truck or a car or something and was just like, dude, I am so sorry. Like, I screwed that up. Which, like, okay, it's nice of you to try and own up to that. But, like, it's a perfect game.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get that back.
It's a large mistake.
Yeah.
It's a large mistake. Well, and again, I respect him for owning it in the moment. I will say that.
Yes. Yeah. And then on the Jaren Durant thing, like, again, this kind of does fit into the reality-based positions, like what we're going to talk about in today's episode, There's kind of two sides to that whole situation. There's the side that's like, kick him out of baseball forever. Okay, well, that's just an emotional response. Like, he clearly didn't say that word going against the gay community. Like, the fan was annoying, and he called him that.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
That's the fan was.
Yeah, and then there's also the side that's like very pro. Like, I'm Jaren Durant's #1 fan. He's the best player in the big leagues, and it's like, okay, there's still an element here because
he's the best player in the big leagues.
Yeah, like we're on we're on that side of it. Like, he said a word, whatever. Like, cool,
right?
Like, we think it's funny.
Yeah.
However, like, there is still an element to this whole situation. Like, you're a professional, and part of being a professional is like the fans shouldn't get that kind of a reaction out of you in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're in the clubhouse after the game and there's not media and cameras around. Like, dude, I don't care what you say. I don't, and if a teammate takes offense to something you say, then you guys can handle that internally, So there is that element as well too. Like, be a professional.
Yep.
Be aware that there's cameras, mics, eyes everywhere. In Boston, one of the biggest franchises in the MLB, right up there with the Cardinals, Yankees, the Dodgers. So there's also that side of this whole thing too. Like, okay, I think it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have said it too, quite honestly. Tennis racket. You need a tennis racket. Like, okay, shut up, dude. Like, okay, I agree with Durant there in that situation, but just also keep in mind, like, in reality here, like, there's always eyes on you.
Yeah, and the thing is, you probably look back on it too, and it's like the guy, the heckler in this scenario, has probably never played a game of baseball in his entire life.
Correct.
Ever.
Yeah, right.
Right. And he has nothing better to do.
Right.
Or has no friends or has a horrible life and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's why you kind of turn around and like laugh at him.
Yeah, correct.
In a way, and like just ignore the situation.
Yes.
And like you said, as a professional athlete, you do have a certain level of contain that type of stuff.
You got to, yeah.
For sure.
And there's actually,
I don't think there should be any punishment, which there was, of course, but that's a whole other topic.
And that's the team trying to save face publicly.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And I think it's also dumb that he got issued a suspension from the Red Sox, but I get it from their point of view. Some I don't agree with it. Like, just straight up, like, I don't agree with that. I think that's dumb. Free speech. And maybe that's kind of contradicting the whole like be professional thing. But where I was going with this baseball podcast as well was there's a guy on there that used to play in the big leagues for the A's. His name's Dallas Braden, who actually coincidentally threw a perfect game on Mother's Day, which is kind of sick.
It's crazy.
But he said he was talking about another player. I can't remember who it was, but he goes, whenever I would get heckled like that, and would get yelled at by fans and whatnot, he goes, all I would do is I would look at him, smile and laugh, and just stare right back at him because it'll just diffuse the situation. So it's kind of like what you just said, like, just laugh at him,
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, yeah, it hurts more if you're struggling because you're already frustrated enough, and then you got this guy in your ear, but I don't know. Bottom line is, I think it was funny.
That's what I always took as it in hockey too, though. Like, whenever we had plenty of crowds at our high school games back when and it's easy to relate to this because you were there at these games.
I was a heckler.
Yeah. But again, like, even then, you don't interact with the fans that are doing that in the actual like arena at that point in time, because you either like I multiple times there was a play where I just made a big hit or had done something to the play before or whatever, and like the guys would be yelling at me at the glass and whatnot. Yeah. I'd turn around and just laugh and smile at them and whatnot. Right. It's like those same guys, you put them on a rink.
They can't stand up.
They couldn't stand up on their skates. Right. So it's like, okay, like, what am I going to gain by, getting pissed off and freaking out at this guy? Yeah.
Right.
So, but the whole Durant situation is also like an indication of where we're going with the reality-based positions thing, because of the fact that how far we've shifted away opinion-wise from reality,
right,
in a lot of things. And like logic and reality could kind of go in the same equation here of what we're about to talk about today, because of the fact that, and you could go social, economic, you could go foreign policy. Those are probably the top three. Migration, that type of stuff. You could talk all logical reality positions on that. And the reality window has shifted a ton in the past probably 10 to 20 years now, maybe 10 to 15 years or so.
It's very skewed.
Very skewed.
Yeah.
And it to the point where, one, we don't really know what's reality
Right.
anymore. We don't know if a man's a woman or a woman's a man and that type of stuff. So like, you start questioning things like that. You know, we are just entirely aware that, you know, our government and the Pentagon spends billions, if not trillions of dollars a year and just loses it and loses track of it entirely. And that's just like a normal daily occurrence. I mean, we probably hear about like loss of billions of dollars at least weekly or bi-weekly in this country.
Sure seems like
which is insanity to think about. And that's a reality for us right now to a certain degree. So that's kind of like setting the scene of what we're actually talking about today, guys, because, you know, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking that reality isn't real right now.
Right.
It's almost in a way, it feels like we're in a simulation to a certain degree, as a lot of people say.
I mean, dude, I think it was yesterday. We're recording this on August 15th, guys, on a Thursday. I think it was just yesterday, and maybe Mitch, you can confirm this just in case, but there's all these videos coming out of Afghanistan of them doing this like military march in all of our military equipment that we left over there. And we're just like, okay with it.
Yeah, there's nothing we can sit here and do about it either, other than like talk about it on X.
Yeah, correct. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know, I tried to organize a group to go over to Afghanistan and get our stuff back. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and claim that, but like even myself, like I see that on Twitter, and I'm just like, wow, like that's really frustrating. And then it's just kind of on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, our social security numbers were stolen, which, as we know, wasn't entirely true.
Well, yeah, was misled a little bit.
But regardless, like that headline was out there, you know, possibly every American social security number has been stolen. And then it's like, wow, that's kind of scary. And then it's on to the next thing. Yep. You know, so it's just like we're so...
Jaron Duran, on to the next thing.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Monkeypox now, on to the next thing, you know, or whatever. Or then you look at, Trump was almost assassinated. Okay, now Kamala's getting installed as the nominee. Right. Move to the next thing.
Right.
Kamala has no policies, but I'd have brunch with her.
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or like, are we going to really pretend like Kamala did not take the whole no tax on tips from Trump? Like, are we really going to just act like that didn't just happen on live TV in front of all of us? Like, but it's on to the next thing.
Again, can you see this is why we could do 3 or 4 episodes on this a week?
Exactly.
You know, like we just listed off, 15 things?
Probably.
Right,
here's another one. Like of Kamala and what's the other guy? Wizard?
Walls.
Yeah.
Mr. 95% tax on nicotine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You know, them getting
my cold dead hands.
Them getting off of the plane. And there's this huge crowd. Well, wait a second. You zoom in on the crowd and they're all recording something different. Then you look at the reflection of the plane. There's nothing there. Yeah. And that's extremely infuriating. And all these people are very infuriated about it on Twitter or on Instagram or wherever. But then it's on to the next thing. It's like, why do we keep just accepting these things as the reality? Mm-hmm. Why can't we be talking about a 10% flat tax? Why can't we be doing that? That's so good for everybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody. And the rich should pay more in taxes. Guess what, idiot? If it's a flat rate, they will inherently pay more. And when you don't have as much money, you will pay less.
Yep.
Like, that's a great thing for everybody. You mentioned it earlier. Men and women are different. It's crazy. I know, it's a crazy concept.
Like a lot different, too,
well, yes.
by the way.
But also it's extremely easy to tell which one you are. Pull your pants down.
Yep.
Is there something there or is there not something there?
What were you born with?
Yeah. Like, it's pretty easy to tell. And that's okay.
Just pull your pants down.
I mean, seriously, though, it's not that complicated.
It's so true though. It's just that just pull your pants down. This is a crazy thing to say. It's just a wild thing to say.
It's so infuriating, confusing, stressful, all of these things. And I understand like that's on purpose because it makes us feel helpless, which we do feel that way. You know, like what the hell are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know? I don't know what the answer is. Trump isn't going to fix it. Like, I'm sorry to tell all you guys that Trump isn't going to fix it. Like, we believe he's the right guy to get us back in the right direction. But what happens after 4 short years? You know what I mean? Like, what happens?
Yeah.
What if they
just get it in again and then repeal everything he does?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Because that's really all we're looking at right now is like, well, I'm just going to repeal all of Trump's things, and then Trump gets back in. Okay, I'm just going to repeal all Biden's things. It's like, okay, nothing is actually being solved. Put concrete plans in place. Say what those plans are, whether you're Republican or Democrat, I don't care, but say your plans. Why is it so difficult for these people? Trump released those 20 points the other day and all that stuff. Like, it sounds really good. That's exciting, that type of stuff. Now, when and if you get into office, go freaking do it. Mm-hmm. I expect all 20 of those things to be crossed off the list, as we got this taken care of. We did this.
Yeah. And there's concrete results from it within the first year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're Kamala, as much as I don't like her and I disagree with her and all those things, but like, why can't she lay out a plan? Why can't she sit down with the media and talk? I mean, we know why. I mean, she's a freaking idiot. There's plenty of other words I'd like to
might
use.
Be 65.
It might be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, my God, like, why are we okay with her not doing these things?
Yep.
Why are we okay with her backing out of these debates? If you're really going to be the nominee, you need to debate. That's a part of the presidential election process. It just is. You all forced Trump onto actually, no, he just agreed to him, but like the interviews and the debates on CNN and MSNBC and all these other things, guess what? He did them.
Yep.
Under all the fire. He did them.
And he's happily gone on other networks as well.
He has.
Mm-hmm.
Some gentleman made a nice video talking about the 10% tax, saying we don't have a taxation issue in the country, but spending problem. He did the math. Some, if you take the top, 100, people who, the most wealthy people in the U.S., right? The top 100 most wealthy people in the U.S. seized all their assets, all the yachts, all the cars, blah, 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 everything, billions and millions of dollars. It would fund the U.S. government for like 9 months. Like it would not be that long.
I remember seeing.
So
this too.
The U.S. has a spending problem, not a tax problem.
For sure.
What's the old saying about teach a man to fish, and he'll never go hungry the rest of his life. But you just hand somebody a fish, they don't actually learn. They just come back for more later.
Right.
Essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's an excellent point there, Mitch.
It's a spending problem.
It is. Absolutely it is. And we're spending it with other countries. And we're sending it to other countries. We're also just losing it, as you mentioned earlier, Gable. I mean, darn, $2 trillion. I just
going to black ops, going to whatever.
Shoot, we lost it.
Destabilize another country over in Africa or Asia or South America or whatever. Whatever black ops operation CIA is doing. Yeah,
right. Exactly. And it's like, you don't just lose that. You lose your hat. That's what you lose. I lost my hat.
Yeah.
You
lose your wallet.
You lose your wallet
in your golf bag.
In your golf. Damn. But that's true. You don't just lose $2 trillion.
No.
On accident.
No.
Like, you just don't do that. No. If you're that irresponsible, give it to me and I'll look after it happily. And guess what? I'm not losing $2 trillion.
The sad part is, Wurtz, I would trust you more with $2 trillion than I would any of our 12 million federal employees at all. Any of them.
100%.
That's the sad part.
Because I might be dumb.
Because I know you'd get the chippers going.
Oh yeah,
for sure. I know you.
We would have
some
going. Sweet looking chippers too. Like, I'm talking made out of diamonds.
There'd be no immigrants coming across the border. Nothing. Diamonds. Wow.
Yeah, it's got to look cool. Yeah,
man, it's like the Deadpool one.
Yeah. Throws up all over him.
Just a brutal scene. Just a brutal scene in Deadpool 2. Oh man.
It's so easy to get so fired up about all these things too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as soon as we're done recording this, like we'll still be fired up and we'll be infuriated and things like that. And that won't stop. But it all goes back to, like, we just accept it. Even you and me, even the three of us, we do. And what are we supposed to do? Mm-hmm. Because what happens, like, something that's very, very frightening to me is, like, what happens if we do get into a World War III? Like genuinely, if that happens, or some kind of civil war breaks out, but let's flirt with the World War III idea first. Like, we're going to be sent to war. Mm-hmm. The three of us in this room, most of the guys that we're close with, all age jokes aside with JT and Jake and all these guys, but like, for real, like, most of the guys that we are close with, like, we're going to war. We're going to go die for what? Nothing. Literally nothing. you know,
for a paycheck and or corrupt, evil Satanist.
MIC,
Yeah.
you know, those guys,
Yeah.
and those companies and those politicians. Republicans and Democrats are both involved in those things, you know, and it's just like, that's extremely frightening to me, you know, because as we were growing up, like Iraq and Afghanistan, all that was going on, and there was a lot of pride in the U.S. And it was like, yes, like those guys are over there, like we're killing the terrorists, you know, we're saving our country. But then as we've gotten older, it's just like, oh my gosh, like if we were really saving our country, and with the military power that we have and possess, like we wouldn't have been there for 20 years if we were really saving our country from a small couple of countries, you know? So it's like there was clearly a different agenda going on there, you know? And then like we saw the video of Tristan Tate with Candace Owens talking about World War II, how every country involved has a different version of what happened in World War II. So what actually happened? You know, I'm not going to sit here and claim that, you know, the Holocaust didn't happen or Hitler was a good guy, because I don't know. I wasn't there. You weren't there. Mitch wasn't there. None of us were there. So, like, we don't know the answer to that. So, like, I'm not going to claim I know what happened there. But what did really happen? You know, we know what we were told as we were growing up every year. It was like, man, those damn Japs and those Nazis, like, we got them. You know, we nuked them. Nuked them off the face of the earth.
And then we entirely ignored the Bolsheviks and the tens of millions of Christians they murdered over in Russia and whatnot, and how the communists took over the government and completely raped and pillaged their population. They raped and pillaged the German population after World War II. So all this stuff, again, this is reality.
Right.
And but there's no crazy, cool Hollywood movies about it. You know, none.
We don't talk about, well, we did, but the Weimar Republic, before World War II happened, 1930s Germany.
One of our earliest episodes. For that
really
like
was.
Episode like 31 or 32 total.
It did really good too.
It did really good, yeah.
And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, like we've mentioned it a million times, but you need to go educate yourself on the Weimar Republic, 1930s Germany. You know, it's going to take some digging to find it because it's not supposed to be like well-known things.
Yeah, it ain't going to be on your first Google search. That's
definitely not.
That's for sure.
Definitely not. But in a nutshell, what is happening in our current country is what was going on in the Weimar Republic.
Yeah, and it boiled to a degree even worse than we're at now, which is scary that we could get to a point worse than we're at now.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not that surprising because ever since COVID, things have continued to get worse.
And what is the famous saying? History repeats itself.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Someone always thinks that they can do it better. And it's like, oh, no, we're really going to get the power now. Well, at the end of the day, the people that still get screwed over when those people think they can get power better, it's the citizens. It's us. We're the ones that get sent to war. We're the ones that starve, or, you know. And oh, dude, I saw this tweet. Oh, this was money. I mean, this was money. He goes, or this tweet, you know, was clearly on the logical thinking side of things in our country, you know, kind of what we're talking about now. And he goes, when you watch the Hunger Games, you sided with the rebellion. When you watched Star Wars, you sided with the rebellion. When you watched Star Trek, which truthfully I've never actually seen.
I've seen the very bits and pieces of it too.
I think it was Star Trek.
It was probably Star Wars, because Star Wars also the rebellion.
Yeah. It was either Star Trek, and I know for sure the next one down was in the Matrix, you sided with the rebellion. And you rooted for them, and you got behind Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games, you know. And she was the character, you know, we're going to get behind her. And then she goes to the District 13 and blah, blah, blah. Like
Luke Skywalker in Star Wars.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like, people, that's what's happening in our country right now. Like, that is exactly what is happening. Why do you think Andy Frisella talks about personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion? Like, that's what's happening.
It's the opposite of what most of the country does.
Correct. And, you know, obviously we're not in the extremes of living in districts right now, but what if that happened? You know what I mean? Like, what if that's possible?
What do they call it? What actually worries me about a real possible scenario soon is the tyranny of the majority. You ever heard of that term? It's basically like how the position we've been put in now, being in quotations, democracy, even though we're a constitutional republic, is that basically if somebody, again, gets 51% of the vote, it could be complete tyranny from that 51% on the rest of the 49%.
Right.
And I'm concerned that's what's going to happen, is that all the white liberal women and their brunch friends are going to want to have brunch with Kamala. So they're going to come out and vote. And then the Republicans are going to be like, oh, like, because Trump had that assassination attempt on him, we got it in the bag. And then a bunch of Republicans aren't going to show up.
Yeah.
And we're going to get beat 55% in the vote or whatever by her in the popular vote. And then next thing you know, our country goes full communist down the rabbit hole, degenerate, etc.
Right.
Or more degenerate than it already is.
Right.
That's what worries me. And it also concerns me too, because I genuinely don't know how much of the population has an IQ or an intelligence to even comprehend what we're talking about right now.
Well,
at all.
And not even like to roast people's IQ, but that can wake up enough to understand what we're talking about. And it's not that we're 100% correct or that our side is 100% correct on everything, but we sure as hell aren't doing what the other side is doing, And if you can't see why the 51% dominating the 49 is a problem when we're supposed to live in a democracy and equal opportunity and things like that, like, then you're part of the problem, And if it doesn't concern you that Kamala is saying on day one, I'm going to fix this and that and that and that, it's like, guess what? You are currently in office. Like, if you're going to fix all those things on day one when you're in office, why don't you do it right now while you're in office?
Exactly. Why is the country getting worse now at the end of your term?
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
Like, if that doesn't frustrate you or make you ask questions, then it's like, well, wait a second. Actually, she's already in office right now. She's the vice president. She's not the president, but like, she's in office right now. Why doesn't she work on those things now? You know what I mean? Just because her title changes, she's going to do those things? No. No. And the one policy thing she's come out with is just a carbon copy of what Trump has said for a long time.
Yep.
And they still hang their hat on him being a Project 2025 guy when he has denounced it 1,000,000 times.
Although Project 2025 is interesting in a good way. I've read through it a bit, and it's pretty solid.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. There's a lot of Christian values behind it.
I see.
Is the biggest thing. Yeah.
I see.
That's what I enjoy about it. I'm probably missing something that's mean and that says something about it affects women's abortions or something like that, and everybody, again, like, and I don't know how many babies you guys are aborting, but I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. You're voting entirely off of something that should happen never at all.
Correct.
If you have sex with the right people, by the way, if you don't let yourself just get used, basically, I mean, seriously, that shouldn't even be one of the first issues you even think about is abortion, because let's just say you do have an abortion one time, awful situation, as any woman who could tell you that has had an abortion, but so that's awful. But then that happens one time, but then you're going to vote for the candidate who wants to tax you 70% or whatnot, and then turn the country into rubble, essentially, just because of one scenario or one magical scenario that you're thinking of that you need to abort a living child.
Right.
I'm a little confused.
Right.
Like the thing is, what's funny about the abortion argument is that it's so not compelling because they sound evil every time they talk about it. They're like rabid about wanting to kill children, essentially. I mean, or I'm like, I should be able to have sex as much as I want and have as many abortions as I want. It's like, you know what? I'm going to vote the entire opposite way because you sound like a crazy bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely.
Yeah.
That's like a terrifying thing that I'm like, no, we will not vote for that. That is complete degeneracy, evil, satanistic as well. I mean, you're basically sacrificing children on the altar at that point in time is what you're doing, just because you're like, oh, again, this is 99.5% of the time. It's like, oh, I had sex with a person and I didn't want to have children. Well, I wonder what sex leads to.
Right.
Children. Oh, what a thought. Maybe you shouldn't have had sex with that person.
Right.
That's a thought.
Right.
And again, we can have a conversation about the rape and incest stuff. We can talk about that stuff. We can be logical about that type of stuff, about extreme scenarios. But again, all the data says and the lowest data says that 95% plus of abortions are just because I didn't mean to have sex with this person. It's like, wait, you didn't mean to. That's a whole other conversation.
Well, and like, I know I've sent you some of the videos. I'm sure you've sent them to me as well. But like the people that work at the clinics, when they're talking about this stuff, like talk about sounding evil. You know,
like actually like Satan influence, satanic influence.
Like there was the one I know I sent you probably a couple weeks ago, but this guy was making an undercover video. He was filming them, and they're like, "Yeah, I had an arm, and there's a liver and a kidney," and it's just like, huh? Like I think my face was literally that as I was watching this. I'm like, how are these people in the middle of whatever conference they were at, because it sounded very loud. It looked like they were in some kind of big hotel conference room type thing. It's just like, oh my gosh. Like, do you people understand what you're voting for there? Like the process of it. And then these people like sell the limbs and the organs of these babies. I know it sounds crazy, guys. I know that sounds insane that people sell this and like barter with it, use it for black market, underground purchases.
This is a cover-up case that happened in California.
Yeah.
It's like actually like was a recent thing that we had known for years that came out in California again recently.
Right. And it's like, is that not, first of all, that's just weird. Like basic, it's just weird. But does that not just like freak you the hell out? Like it's sickening even to like be talking about it right now. Like my stomach is starting to hurt right now because it's just it's horrifying to think about, and people will vote on that one thing and they'll ignore the 70% tax or whatever it ends up being. They'll ignore that we have millions of people coming across the border, just flooding it. We have no idea who those people are, but they're flooding it.
Yep.
But because you're voting on that one issue, like that will continue to happen. And the people in those southern states and those southwestern states, like, will continue to get murdered and raped and whatever else.
Dismembered.
Yeah, exactly.
Et cetera, molested.
Cannibalized, things like that. Like, that'll continue to happen at a faster rate as well. And the 70% tax that's being put on you, like that money you're paying is going to house those people to keep them in your communities. And for those of you that are not on the side of all that, like us, but you think because of the assassination attempt, like we've just got in the bag. Well, guess what? Like that doesn't just guarantee it. You said that, but if you are choosing to not vote because of that, you're still going to have the stuff in schools where your kids go of, LGBT, whatever stuff being taught, and pronoun stuff being taught, trans stuff being taught, and like that stuff being glorified in a way, So just because you think we got it in the bag and so you're like, I'm all good. Like our 2 votes here don't matter. They do. They matter.
Especially if it's in your local ones.
Yes.
I mean, we had this conversation with your dad, actually.
Yeah.
What was it, 10 to 15% in each county around St. Louis?
That
was all that showed up to local primaries and whatnot.
Yeah.
And again, that's the stuff that affects you the most directly.
Absolutely.
The federal stuff's important, 100%.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. And again, I agree that an election integrity is a real thing. I mean, there's real concerns Wurtz and I have about it, about the whole January 6th thing and whatnot,
Correct.
all of that stuff, like 100%. But that doesn't mean that you just don't show up and vote.
Correct.
Because again, like, are you saying every single election, including your local ones, is rigged? That's pretty black-pilled. That's pretty sad thought process. Let's hope not. I mean, I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
At minimum, local ones show up and show out for that.
Care about what's going on in your community.
Exactly.
That's where it starts. It's like if you have no care and no commitment to your community, then you're not going to feel like you need to vote. But if you have an idea of what's going on and you're excited about your town and you genuinely listen to people that are running for mayor or for the local board or council or whatever, and you genuinely care, and it's like, okay, this guy wants to get more trails, hiking or biking or walking trails in our city. Like, I love being outside. I would love that, Well, go vote for that guy then.
I like other people being outside and having options to be healthy.
Exactly.
And whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
Show out then.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sounds like you got a good option to participate a little bit.
Yeah.
And show like some kind of willingness to care about what's going on in society.
Correct. You know, like we have a newish, now it's newish mayor in the town where my family and I live at. And I've told you this, but something I really appreciate that he does is he uses social media to talk about what's going on in our town. Mm-hmm. He shows himself out at these places. You know, it could be literally that a local store is having a sale. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that's a real thing. Like, he does it. He posts that. But, like, I love that. Mm-hmm. You know, show yourself at the eclipse viewing. You know, show yourself that you were there. I love that. That's cool.
At the farmer's market.
Yeah, at the farmer's market.
Yeah.
That's another one that he does. So it's just like, I appreciate those things. I like seeing that. I will, as long as you don't screw up our town, which this guy won't, but like, I will continue to vote for you and rally for you. Mm-hmm. When the primaries, like you were just mentioning, were coming up, one of the guys that was running for state Congress here in Missouri for our district, he knocked on our front door. My mom and I stood there and talked to him for probably 15 or 20 minutes.
Was that Bolin?
No, his name was Scott Ottenberg.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, he did not win the primary, but we talked to him for a few minutes, and I even told him the same exact stuff I just said about our new mayor. I was like, hey, as a young person who does pay attention to these things, like, I appreciate that he's doing this type of stuff. And he goes, well, I'll be honest with you, like, that's something I lack on. You know, and my mom jokingly says, like, well, Scott, you should hire him then to do your social media. Mm-hmm. But
imagine you're taking the drone out to do a social media.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah. I'd make him look like the most badass guy in politics ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all of that being said, my point is just like, care about what's going on. If you have an opportunity to meet these people that are running for different positions, whether it's local, state, federal, have a conversation with them. Don't just blow them off. Like, I know the easy thing is to say, oh, I'm not interested when they knock on your door, you know, because it's annoying. It might be annoying to talk to these people, but get to know them. You know, that'll humanize them a little bit. You know, and then on voting day, when we saw him there, like, when I was going to say hi to this guy I was just talking about, he was on the phone, but my mom had the opportunity. It was like, Mr. Ottenberg, like, good luck today. You know, we're rooting for you. And, like, we felt like we got to know that guy. Mm-hmm. So as much as it's on them to get to know the people that they're trying to get the support of, you should also be getting to know them, to know, one, that they're trustworthy, and two, to help that voter integrity come out even more. Yeah. I know I just went on a super long tangent, but
I mean, you're
hopefully
right.
Hopefully you guys can follow that.
Well, that's from the ground up though. That's that solution aspect of our
Yes.
breaking news episodes where we actually talk about, you know, how to get involved to a certain degree. It doesn't mean that, you know, you have to be a poll agent or whatever. You know, that's a great option if you have the time and whatnot.
Sure.
Again, we get being busy. I mean, we're all three of us are busy people in this room and whatnot, but we sure as hell can show up to vote in our local primaries.
Definitely.
When, you know, 90% of our county doesn't show up.
Right.
Which is really bad.
Right.
Really bad. And again, I mean, we've talked about this before too. It's also on a lot of our population that listens to this is young. Mm-hmm. We saw no other people our age at our polling places.
I did.
Everybody was at least 30, 40 years older than me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was lunchtime.
Yeah. Same.
I mean, that's a pretty, seemingly it should be a pretty common time.
For sure.
That everybody, including people our age, should have time to do stuff.
Yeah.
And show up.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that hard of a thing to do.
Right.
I mean, I was in and out in 3 minutes.
Yeah. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Maximum of 10 maybe.
Exactly.
If you do end up having to wait in line, you know. And another thing with the local elections and the primaries, like what we're talking about, like, don't just vote for the people's names that you recognize. Mm-hmm. Like, people in our county or in our district or whatever she is, like, stop voting for Ann Wagner. Like, please.
For the love of God.
Like, she is not a good Republican.
Yeah.
She is not good. Like, you St. Louis County people, stop voting for her, damn it. Mm-hmm. Like, here we are. We're all advocating for term limits, right, on all these people in Washington, D.C. Guess what? She falls into that.
Exactly. Not to mention, again, her net worth is exactly similar to what we talked about with Pelosi and McConnell and all of them, too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the same idea there.
St. Louis City did vote out Cori Bush.
I did see that. She got voted out in the primaries, which Wesley Bell, I think, is also kind of a scumbag, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he lets a lot of criminals onto the street, but...
The way my dad... Because I said that to him, too. I'm like, well, isn't Wesley Bell, like, just as much of an idiot? He goes, well, he's a little bit more educated of an idiot. He's still an idiot, but he's a little bit more intelligent than Cori Bush. But like, hey, at least that's a step in the right direction from St. Louis City. Right. That's something we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, we don't need squawky, annoying squad members in Congress.
Yeah, and she was like crazy mode in her speech.
She's one of those like the future is female type people, and it's just like it makes me want to pull trig. Like I'm talking like full vomit mode whenever I hear that phrase.
Over that white T-shirt.
Yeah, the future is female. Oh gosh. I mean, is that not like just painful to say?
Right. Like
genuinely.
Yes.
Like,
that's your tagline.
Like it's so funny because those same people will then say that stay-at-home moms are being oppressed and whatnot, even though they're making the most impact on the country of anybody in this country.
Well, hey,
like,
dude. Hey,
like,
you're being way too logical here.
Whoa. Yeah, Mitchell gave me the stop sign there. Whoa. Stay-at-home moms. Oh my gosh, that's way too much.
You just said the big one there.
The man providing. Oh man, wow. That's a horrible idea.
A head scratcher too. I mean,
actually raising your kids. Oh,
crazy.
Couldn't be us three. That's for sure. Our moms definitely didn't do that.
Correct. They definitely did.
Yeah, they definitely did.
Just quick side note there.
Big time. Yes. Yeah, we love our parents. Big time. But anyways, on quick tangent. Sorry, I get really bothered by that type of stuff. But another thing that's interesting too is that when it comes to speaking about the size of the federal government, in the same breath, both sides, to some degree, say they don't trust the government or don't like the government in certain ways, and then one side in particular wants to make it larger and wants to give it more hands-on stuff, which a good example of this, and this was why I made the IQ comment earlier, but a good example of this is the Department of Education.
Yeah.
And why and again, Trump, this is actually one of the things I was like, okay, like good to see, because he was like, we're going to abolish it entirely. Because since the Department of Education has been introduced, our education outcomes in this country have only gone to the floor. Yeah. I mean, there's actual data where it's basically a straight line down ever since the Department of Education got introduced. And that's a good indication of the situation we're in now, because I believe the numbers, actually I'm 100% sure of this, but the numbers are 21% of our country is illiterate, at least functionally illiterate, and they are considered that by standards. They are illiterate. 21%. That's reading or writing. That's insane in a developed country.
Mm-hmm.
Then 54% of the population reads at a 6th grade level or lower, literacy-wise. 54%.
Looks like we're part of the majority. Hi, my name's Jacob, and I never learned how to read.
That was funny, Mitch. Talking about that, Jacob, right?
I was a big Scholastic book fair.
I take Venmo after the show.
Just call your audience literal idiots. Just morons. I'm funny. But again, like that's a number. I mean, you hear 54% of the population cannot read above a 6th grade level. That's essentially useless at that point in time.
Yeah.
That's essentially you're not going to be a productive member of society at that point in time.
Right.
Because literacy is like the number one predictor of that. Like that's how you actually turn a country into a functional country.
Right.
Is if you have a high literacy rate.
Right.
So one, obviously the Department of Education needs to go, but two, that also has us asking questions. That has us asking questions again about the tyranny of the majority as well. Because it's like, how you basically put these kids through state-funded schools that fed them state-funded indoctrination.
Right.
What way are they going to vote?
Right.
They're going to vote for the welfare that comes in for them. They're going to vote for the government to give them more handouts because they're not productive members of society, because they literally can't be because they're educated by the state. So you start asking all these questions, and it's like, again, reality is a real thing. Yeah. I mean, we talked about asking questions even about something as crazy as World War II and whatnot, which is a crazy thing to even have to consider. That was probably the biggest thing that even had to like shock my reality, is the fact that we literally have to be like, oh, each outcome's different in each country.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was the best way to heard it put. I had thought about that before, but I had never heard until Tristan and Candace said that in that episode. I mean,
crazy.
You don't consider it.
No,
at
we
all.
Don't.
Because you're never told to consider it.
Right.
Again, to a certain degree, we were state-funded indoctrination at public school too.
We were public
it's just
school
that
all the way through.
Thank God we had two good parents,
Right.
mother and a father in our household that made us logical, common sense human beings
Right.
as well, which again could be the number one policy is just to encourage families in our country.
Right.
But apparently nobody wants to get behind that.
Right.
We're too worried about the newest social movement for unmarried women or for the LGBT++ helicopter community or whatever new name they have or whatnot. So we're worried about all that, which doesn't again they don't reproduce either, that community. I could have said Apache too, but whatever.
Helicopter rotors.
You definitely practiced that before. That's funny as hell. But I mean, again, like these are people that will not have children either. So people that don't have children also, and the opinions they have are also horrible for society because it's just selfish. Basically, it's like all good for my life and, let me feed my bleeding heart social policies and whatnot. I'm going to vote this way. But hey, it won't affect any of my children because I don't have any.
Right.
Which is why it's also like when people that openly like make fun of or attack having children as a bad thing, like it makes me question every other thing in your life.
Right.
Like whenever I hear somebody say that, it's like, oh yeah, I couldn't imagine myself having kids. Like that's weird. I'm like, wow, your entire life's a shit show, isn't it? Because it's all selfish. It's all based around you entirely.
Yeah.
That's what it makes it sound like. Now it's different. I know people who are struggling to either have children, people close to us as well, struggling to have children and want children. If God ends up being like, okay, you can't have children, that's a completely different story entirely.
Sure.
But it's when the people encourage it and laugh about it as if it's a good thing.
Right.
It's like you being a parent, if you can be, is the biggest opportunity you will have, as we've seen with our own parents and whatnot.
Absolutely.
I mean, the biggest impact they made in the world is bringing us into it.
Yeah. And then raising us.
And then it will happen with us, and we'll do the same thing.
Right.
And you pass it down, and you continue following the line and whatnot. You be an active father, in our case, in our children's lives. So it's just, there's so many like interesting, selfish, emotional decisions people make on policy these days that it makes me genuinely concerned if we can just solve this by voting in the right stuff.
Yeah.
Genuinely concerned.
Right.
And you and I have talked about this. Us three have all talked about this. It's like, we don't ever want it to result in violence. That is the last absolute resort of this whole thing.
Yes.
But damn, does it look like the only option sometimes?
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the thing is like, yeah, we can make ourselves great, but that doesn't mean that, those people who literally think selfishly and emotionally will even listen to that point of view at all.
Right. Because most of them are reading at a 6th grade level.
Exactly. Or again, don't have parents in their household at all that care about them or whatnot.
Right.
Because they've just given up on their ability to parent children in that case, or it's like, I had a bad childhood, so now I'm going to make everybody else's life miserable. It's like, okay, sweet. Thank you so much for that.
You, pal.
Yeah, that really means a lot to the rest of the country. Have a little bit of awareness outside of your own bubble.
Right.
I mean, for God's sake. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
It's just take a step outside of the fact that you're in your Pride Parade march or whatever, or you're worried about futures, female, woman abortions, and all this other emotional stuff, or the conversations you have with your girls at brunch and whatnot, and the stupid stuff they say. Take a step back and be like, will this harm other people?
Right.
Because it will.
Right.
This type of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, what is the statistic? 68% or 70% of unmarried women vote Democrat. So that's a scary one too.
Right.
And that means no families.
Right.
It goes from the chain up at that point in time. And again, the selfish and emotional thing could then step back to the local level that you were talking about. Because it's just like, oh, like my vote doesn't matter in that part. That's selfish. That is objectively selfish that you were just like, oh, I'm not going to vote out Ann Wagner, who's worth $20 million.
Right.
Because, oh yeah, I didn't have time at lunch today. I didn't have 3 minutes to spare to go to the primaries.
It's selfish and just wrong. Like your vote does matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially at the local level, like we just discussed.
Yeah.
We understand the election integrity thing, blah, 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 blah. Local elections, though, you should damn near be showing up for.
Yeah.
It's unreal the amount of people who don't think outside the idea of legacy for the country. Because the way I think about things, the reason I talk about Christian values, because I know we'll be great for the country. I know we'll be good for the country, even if it's denying yourself and your sexual desires and your physical desires and all this other stuff. It might do that, but it's going to be better for the country. No doubt. You'll have a better life. You'll thank us later after a 10% tax.
Right.
If that's implemented. That 10% tax, everybody will be lining their pockets at that point in time. Our infrastructure will look beautiful. Everything. We won't send any money over to foreign allies or adversaries or anything like that because we do both, which is awesome. Sweet.
Love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Completely disband the entire federal government because they don't have our best interest in mind. Boom. Let's go full anarchy.
All right. The logistics of that one might be a little difficult. Little difficult.
No, it's easy.
Hey, he really is in the majority of it.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is what 5th grade reading level looks like.
Just a little bit. I had to take a drink over here. I'm already drinking beer on a third. No, I'm kidding. It's a poppy.
Man, I wish I had a beer right now. Yeah. Gosh, after all that.
Hey, we're fitness guys. We don't drink.
Yeah, you're right. We don't drink.
Yeah.
You and I talked about how stupid that is, but anyways.
Oh man.
On not disbanding the entire federal government, obviously.
Logistically might be a little difficult.
I just hate a lot of our government.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Anyways.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
We both just went on some tangents.
That's so funny because that's probably the most on topic tangent wise we've been.
Kind of,
because you probably went for like 5-10 minutes at one point in time. I probably went 5-10 minutes at one point in time. You, me,
yeah, right?
And then, we didn't go back and forth.
And like, it was okay because like we
it's just like shit.
Like we got through everything we wanted to cover, but then we just kind of kept going on. Like it was all good. I'm sure we lost some of you since we're like an hour into this now. And you're like, man, I'm so sick of listening to these guys. But
you're like, I have no attention span.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that are
Instagram reel
still here with us, like, hey, how you doing? Thanks for sticking around.
Seems to be a lot of our OG homie listeners for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, at the end of all of our non-guest episodes, Money Mitch will ask us a Q&A question that's submitted by you guys, the listeners or the viewers. Now, we have a few different ways that we would like you to submit those to us. First, you can DM them to us at untapped.llp on Instagram. You can DM them to us individually, or you can text them to us if you have our numbers. You can also email them to us, extricationfitness@gmail.com. I know it's a mouthful. There's an email button in our Instagram bio, and it's also in our Facebook bio as well. Or, final way, you can leave them in the comments of our Instagram posts or YouTube videos. So every week we post a few clips from the podcast episodes, just some different highlights, things that we think you guys would enjoy seeing in a short form. And all these podcast episodes, along with some other different forms of content, are on YouTube. So you can leave them in the comments on either one. So guys, give us those questions. We give them all to Money Mitch. He then picks one out that pertains to the topic of the episode. Sometimes he will just come up with one, and sometimes they just have absolutely nothing to do with the episode. They're just for laughs and whatnot. So anyway, Money Mitch.
How purposeful is the U.S.'s foreign policy in terms of giving aid to other countries?
It's not purposeful at all. It just screws us over. Get rid of it.
So
stop all foreign aid.
So you
no taxes. Abolish the government. He already said that.
No
Next
taxes.
question.
Yeah. So you two orangutans over here. Keep it real high level.
I'll have you know, I read it a 7th grade reading level. Okay.
I am not part of the majority. God bless. Keep it real high level. What would be some reasons for us to send money abroad to countries that don't necessarily have at face value, right? At face value, what value does Ukraine bring us? At face value, what value does Israel bring to us, right? Let's hypothesize some very high level reasons on that.
High level. I don't know.
Keep it very high level. Don't get in the weeds here like you two enjoy doing.
As far as Israel goes, I suppose the way that we can be helped is the whole Iron Dome concept, which I know Trump talked about wanting to do here for the U.S., which is to my understanding, it's basically a force field around the country.
That-
Right? Like,
isn't it a missile defense system?
Yeah,
though,
exactly.
Is the idea? Yeah,
right.
basically,
Yeah, there's not like a literal bubble
Yeah.
around.
I
But
mean, again, like military advancements, or we're talking that way, like are actually beneficial. Like it is
for sure.
Military advancements can be very beneficial for the
Yeah,
country.
especially
I
when
will
it's-
not sit there and deny that.
Yeah, especially when it's defense,
exactly.
of
Yeah.
our homeland. for
Not
that
just
matter.
going over offensively to kill some guys with AKs that
Right.
have no training whatsoever,
Right.
or whatever, etc.
Man, I was just about to make a remark, but it's a high level conversation
I know.
here.
I was too. Dude, don't worry. I almost let it slip.
It's a high level conversation here. Ukraine, I honestly don't know. I don't know enough about Ukraine itself as a country to know if they are better at us than something or in something to where it's like, hey, we will pay you to either provide us this equipment, this service, or we will pay you to teach us how to do it. I don't know enough about the country in that way to know if there is something that we can make a deal out of. Maybe there is. I'm just being completely honest here. Like, I don't know.
That's fair. That's entirely fair. Ukraine, I have a tough time seeing from what I've seen so far and looked into so far. I have a tough time seeing like positive benefits we get out of it, other than some of our politicians being owned by Ukraine.
Right. Right.
If you consider that a benefit, I guess that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, and it's similar to Israel in that way, where that's the problem, is that it'd be different if we were using them as just kind of like a base point for the military to just have eyes on that area and whatnot.
Sure.
But instead they own a majority of our politicians.
Right.
So that's where like that issue of the foreign policy comes into play, where it ends up becoming a detriment, because we all of our policies that are pushed are beneficial toward Israel and they're not beneficial toward the United States.
Right.
That would be my problem with it for sure. But and again, like you said, there can be hypothetically logical reasons to be in Israel if we really looked at it, if we just use them as kind of an arm of like, hey, communicating like things
Share
good
intel.
over there, like that type of thing. Like,
Correct.
There's no pushes like toward other countries coming at us as the United States or bases or whatnot, that type of stuff. I could see logic there. Ukraine, I just genuinely, I have a tough time looking at any reasons we would be over there,
Right.
other than to line pockets.
Correct.
And just to have more war. Because I mean, it used to be part of the USSR. That's a big thing about Ukraine as well. Which, again, I'm not saying we should just let it become another part of the USSR. But at the same time, I don't really consider it our problem, because we have so much shit going on over here.
Right.
That's my biggest stance on foreign policy, is the fact that, I mean, if we're talking like high level of it, like, and that's it. Foreign policy is just that we have so many issues in this country right now that I don't know how we can afford to deal with other people's issues right now.
And that's 100% true. While you and I and all three of us, we all know that it is impossible to not have foreign policy. I mean, like, you obviously we try to work together with other countries and with the world.
You need imports and exports.
Exactly.
You need people to buy our
Diplomatic
stuff. We need to buy other
Yes.
people's stuff. There's
100%.
no denying that.
Yes, except oil. We can just use our own oil. But
It's a
yes,
replenishing
like,
resource.
we need things from other places. They need things from us. Let's make a deal. Like, it is impossible to have zero foreign policy. But with the things that we're talking about now, with Ukraine specifically and with Israel specifically, like, it's very difficult to find reasons for being like, yeah, we should keep doing this. What purpose as a U.S. citizen, not a politician, because we know their purpose, but as a U.S. citizen, why am I sending money to Ukraine? Like, honestly, why? It's not benefiting the country, not even just like me, myself, but like, it's not benefiting the country in any way as a whole. It's not bringing a new technology to the country, a new type of airplane or something, I don't know, whatever, or a new type of missile defense, like what we were just talking about with Israel. It's not bringing that. It's not bringing a new way to build roads or bridges. It's not bringing anything. It's not bringing us product. We get food and things like that from other countries as well. Everything is made in China. Like, as funny as that whole thing is, like, without China, we wouldn't have a lot of the stuff we have, or at least it would be the way we acquire those things would look different.
Our production would be hampered for a little bit at least, though.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it would, trying to catch up to the demands of the country, you know? So, like...
Which I think U.S. U.S. manufacturing would catch up with that.
I think so, too.
We as a country have shown resilience with that in the past.
Yeah,
so,
and I think it would boom as well.
100%.
You know? If you're forced to make it all in-house, like, eventually...
You're going to make it happen.
Eventually, you're going to make it happen. Yeah, right. So... While we sit here and we disagree with all these things foreign related, like there is a level that has to be had, but it's got to make sense.
Well, it's like a functioning world concept. Like you should have diplomatic relations with these countries to a certain degree and whatnot. You know, ambassadors can go visit the other countries, and make sure we're on good terms with Japan or China or whatever it is, or a European country of some sort. The EU, we have a good relationship with, that type of thing. Like, you know, that's fine. Yeah. Like we can have good relations, but it doesn't mean that you just send an excess amount of money to, especially the Ukraine and Israel, the top two on the list that we think of, just because it's all in the news and whatnot. Just sending an excess amount of money just to send an excess amount of money. Over. And that's, at least seemingly, that's what it is. And again, like it truthfully seems the only thing we really get out of sending money to Israel at this point in time is just that they don't get blown off the map by other Middle Eastern countries, essentially, which I don't think they've ever had a problem with that. Yeah. Last time I checked with their military. Right. But maybe I'm wrong there. And again, like that comes down to a diplomatic relation type thing as well, where it's like, hey, let's talk with Middle Eastern leaders and Israeli leaders, which again, they're in the Middle East, of course, but other Middle Eastern countries and Israeli leaders. And let's figure out, you know, where does this go, et cetera, do this, you know, who's going to be doing these goods, et cetera. Let's figure this out logically. Right. Instead of us just having to continuously send you $50 billion or $20 billion or whatever over and over again, just because
Iran is threatening to bomb you off the face of the earth.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, why are they threatening that? Yeah, exactly. Can we figure that one out too?
It's also because we keep encroaching and putting more stuff into Russia and Ukraine and whatnot. So then we antagonize Putin with the Nord Stream pipeline stuff. Right. And then he comes down and tells Iran, hey, you need to mess with them now. Right. So it's all this thing where like you're meddling in certain areas and, you know, it starts connecting dots and whatnot. When in reality, it's like there's no actual need for that. Right. When you could just have good trade relationships with countries and good diplomatic relationships with countries, and then you guys each do your own thing, have your own values in the country and whatnot. We don't need to go and save another country, you know, from poverty or whatever other issues they have on until we handle our own stuff. You know, so, yeah.
Well, guys, that's going to be episode 131. If you enjoyed it, which hopefully you did, because there was a lot that was said here, from baseball to foreign policy. So
two connected things, if you ask me.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. That's correct.
America's pastime, baby.
So, guys, if you enjoy this, please share the show. Continue sharing the show. Continue showing the love. It's very easy and free for you to share the show. So please do that for us. It helps us grow immensely and helps us get new listeners and new viewers. Which we are trying to grow this as much as possible. So, guys, until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Dude.
Got too little time.